Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States. And good morning to the world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, created by we the people, owned by, or should be owned by we the people, but now controlled by the mega corporations, something we have to get back. But before and without further ado, let's go to the studio where our resident geniuses are present. Howard Reynolds, Jack Van Bever, and Mayana. Buenos dias, mi gente.
Buenos dias.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I am doing fine after having a crazy internet crack up. I think we got it partially working. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, sir. I don't really have a rant this morning. I have a little incident that happened this weekend, though. I wanted to talk about a little bit.
Let's hear it, brother. Let's hear it.
And it happened that a death occurred. A friend of mine, his boy, was killed by a Uber driver.
Oh.
He did lunge at the Uber driver, and the Uber driver shot him twice in the chest.
Oh my God!
And it was just an awful thing. And I'm sitting here thinking, I would rather take an ass whipping than kill somebody. I can live from a butt kicking. I mean, I can recover from that. 2 shots you don't recover from. And I'm just thinking about the world, the crazy world that these people's lives have been set into right now, having to deal with this, the grief. And I imagine that driver's feeling pretty bad about things too. So,
I first of all, please accept my most sincere condolences for the loss of your friend. But
it's my friend's son. It's my friend's son that got. He was 29.
Ouch. So. Jack, we live in this world just filled with guns and not only filled with guns, but also people having severe financial problems that lead. You find out that most of the times when you have crime or any of these issues, it always breaks down to a financial component. And a financial component always breaks down to your political system, your political issues. We are a rich country, and the crime rate in this country, based on its wealth, is pathetic. And it all has to do with what we have. It's hard to say, but it is one of those truths. Anything else, my brother?
No, sir. That's. I was just thinking about that more this morning. That for me, I think I would rather take a butt kicking than kill somebody.
That's exactly right. I mean, it doesn't matter what anybody says. When you take another life and you start to reflect, you can't help but wonder, unless you have no soul. And I don't know too many people without souls. So
and it's all these guns that have been placed in people's hands. It's the open carry. That open carry is just, this is a product of that.
Yeah. And I tell you, I am waiting for the first incident of these thugs that are out there arresting undocumented workers. Actually, they are also arresting American citizens, just that look like they may be undocumented. I'm waiting for them to try to arrest me when they hear my accent. Who knows? But it is amazing because I am waiting for one of this to happen when these unmarked guys come and try to get you off the street. Somebody's going to do exactly that, but we'll see. But anyway, anything else, my brother?
No, that's good.
All right, let's get busy, folks. I can hear the pain in the voice, brother. I can hear the pain in the voice. But before we get started, it looked like we already have a call. So what I'm going to do is I have a lot to talk about, some very important issues to talk about. But since somebody decided to call this early in the morning, right as soon as we started, let's go to Richard. Richard, come on in.
Good morning, Egberto. Thank you.
Good morning, brother. Talk to me.
Before I get started on why I call, let me touch on what you are talking about. Good old Dan and Patrick, let's criminalize something that if you smoke it or take it, it's going to make you mellow and peaceful. Let's criminalize that. But let's make all guns legal. Yeah, way to go, Dan.
You know something? That's a very smart statement, and I hope people understand what the hell you're talking about, because you're talking about THC, how Dan Patrick tried like hell to make it illegal, put 50,000 people out of work, take away veterans' only peace of mind, etc. Continue, brother.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're going to make guns legal for 18-year-olds. Machine guns where you can go in and buy them. I mean, how much sense does this make, Dan? You're an idiot. You're a bona fide 21-karat card-carrying idiot. But no, the reason I called, I sent you what you asked me to send you. I was just wondering if you got it, and I was able to read it about Minnie Fisher Cunningham, my great-great-aunt.
Yes, I did receive it, and I replied to it saying that I want to get to it and actually I want to interview you about your aunt. I just, again, with all the news that's been happening, I hadn't been able to centralize on that yet. But I did get it, and I did respond to the emails and stating exactly that I want to talk to you. Let us bring her to the forefront when we get some time to do that.
Yeah, because it's a lot to read. In fact, I have a book that I'll turn you on to. It's about her. It came out in 2004. By a couple of history professors that are a husband and wife team at University of Houston in Victoria. Right. I believe they retired since then. Judith MacArthur and Hal Smith wrote the book about her and did a presentation at Sam Houston State University not long after the book came out. And she was she never got her credit where credit's due, but she's the kind of person that didn't really care about getting credit where credit's due.
Let me tell you, Richard, we are going to do her. When I talk to you officially, we're going to do her right, because I got all the information that I think it's your sister who sent it to me, or your wife, one or the other, right?
My wife.
Great. So we'll take care of that, brother. So we'll do that, Richard. Look, I need to get busy with the program, but thank you for calling in. And we're going to give Sister Minnie the right response. All right.
Let me give you one of her quotes real quick. She said, "You can change the world as long as you didn't care who got credit for it." So that goes a lot on the line of what we're talking about. Okay.
Thank you, brother. I love that statement, actually. I love that statement. It makes sense. All right, folks. Look, this weekend was an eventful weekend. The Senate finally, after some coercion, the Senate finally passed the great, mighty, ugly bill forward. And there was a dissension that is worth noting. And I am going to play I'm going to play his entire floor speech. It was short enough, but I also cut some spaces out of it. But it is something you all should listen to. Let me make sure that I have it queued up here. I think I do. And then we have a lot to talk about after you listen to this, because, we talk a lot about how bad this beautiful, big, beautiful bill is. But many a times folks think, well, you are a lefty. That's just the reason you don't like the bill, which it has that couldn't be further from the truth. But that said, you need to listen to this. Let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let's make sure I got it queued up. Republican Senator Thom Tillis is one of the two senators who voted against proceeding with the destructive, big, ugly bill this weekend. And in the process, Donald Trump excoriated him, told him that he was going to get him primaried, and he simply destroyed the guy because the guy wanted some answer. Thom Tillis is no progressive. He's no liberal. He believes in cutting Medicaid in a responsible way, what he thinks is a responsible way. But what he understands is what Donald Trump did was actually a traitorous thing against the American people with regards to their health care. And he acknowledges this. So what I want to do is play for you his speech in full. I chopped it up to get out all the spaces to compress it as best possible, but you need to listen to this speech. This is an honorable guy, even if you don't agree with his conservative policies. Listen to this and then
Mr. President.
The Senator from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I come today to explain my vote yesterday for voting against the motion to proceed on this bill. Mr. President, I spent most of my career in management consulting, managing large, complex enterprise projects, multi-year, thousands of hours, a lot of complexity that take people, process, and technology to make it work. I learned a lot in that career. And I was able to go to the legislature and take that mindset as a member of the minority for 2 terms. And then we got a majority in 2010. And I found myself being the Speaker of the House. And Mr. President, we were in the middle of the financial crisis. When I got sworn in January of 2011, North Carolina had a $2 billion shortfall on a $20 billion general revenue fund. And I had 6 months to balance that budget. Well, Mr. President, we did something that had not been done in North Carolina. We took the time to understand every aspect and every dollar that was being spent in government. We determined how to cut government in a way that was sustainable. We cut 12% from the university system budget, not the rate of growth, but the actual spending. And I had some people say that it was going to be disruptive and the University of North Carolina would never be the same again. But Mr. President, we did it in a way that was instructed by the operations of the university system. And we did it in a way in concert with the chancellors. And you know what happened, Mr. President? We actually balanced the budget. We did do those cuts. And the last time I checked, the North Carolina university system is still considered one of the greatest systems in the United States of America. Why do I use that example? Because the Medicaid proposal in this bill bears no resemblance to that kind of discipline and due diligence. It has no insights into how these provider tax cuts are going to be absorbed without harming people on Medicare. And even worse, most of my colleagues do not even understand on either side of the aisle the interplay of state-directed payments and the devastating consequences of the funding flows that are going to be before us. Mr. President, here's how I figured out the impact in North Carolina. I used to be Speaker of the House, and I like the Speaker and have good relationship with the Speaker and the President pro tem, so I called them up. And I had my staff ask them if they would do an economic impact assessment on what this proposed bill would do to the Medicaid program in North Carolina. But I didn't want just the view of the Republican partisan staff that reports to the Speaker and the President pro tem on how they're going to absorb this bill. I decided to go to Josh Stein, the governor, and I went to his Democrat staff for Medicaid. I asked them to prepare an estimate into Josh Stein, the governor, and I went to his Democrat staff for Medicaid. I asked them to prepare an estimate into association. I asked 3 different independent groups, a partisan Democrat group, a partisan Republican group of experts, and a nonpartisan group of the Hospital Association to develop an impact assessment independent, not talking, not sharing, reporting to me. And what I found is the best case scenario is about a $26 billion cut. Now, we've got a delay, so it may be 2 years, it may be 1 year. All it does is make that $26 billion happen in year 1 or year 12, but the impact is the same, Mr. President. And it's indisputable. Now, when I actually presented this report that you can find on my website, I had people in the administration say, you're all wet. You don't know what you're doing. I said, well, why don't we assemble a series of meetings We're going to provide you our analytics. You go through it, tear it apart. I told about Mehmet Oz, who I consider to be one of the most capable people in the Trump administration. He's a brilliant man, and I'd encourage my Democrat colleagues to talk to him. He knows his stuff, and he's very focused on getting efficiencies out of CMS. So we had 3 different conference calls with CMS, with Oz on the phone and on the video, and me on the video. And I said this, guys, I would love nothing more than you to prove me wrong. I would love nothing more for you to tell me it's not 26 billion or 30 billion, that it's 2.6 billion or 2 billion or 200 million. But after 3 different attempts for them to discredit our estimates, the day before yesterday, they admitted that we were right, that between the state-directed payments and the cuts scheduled in this bill, there's a reduction of state-directed payments. And then there's the reduction of the provider tax. They can't find a hole in my estimate. So what they told me is that, yeah, it's rough, but North Carolina's used the system. They're going to have to make it work. All right. So what do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years when President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there anymore, guys? When the White House is advising the president are not telling him that the effect of this bill is to break a promise. And you know, the last time I saw a promise broken around health care, with respect to my friends on the other side of the aisle, it's when somebody said, if you like your health care, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. We found out that wasn't true. That made me the second Republican Speaker of the House since the Civil War, ladies and gentlemen, because we betrayed the promise to the American people. 2 years later, 3 years later, it actually made me a U.S. Senator because in 2010, it had just been proposed. And just anticipation of what was going to happen was enough to have a sea change election that swept Republicans into the majority for the second time in 100 years. Now, Republicans are about to make a mistake on health care and betraying a promise. It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office or in the cabinet room when I was there with finance, where he said we can go after waste, fraud, and abuse on any programs. Now, those amateurs that are advising him, not Dr. Oz, I'm talking about White House healthcare experts, refuse to tell him that those instructions that were to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse all of a sudden eliminates a government program that's called the provider tax. We have morphed a legal construct that admittedly has been abused and should be eliminated into waste, fraud, and abuse. Money laundering. Read the code. Look at how long it's been there. I was Speaker of the House. I refused to do it. When I left North Carolina, I said, we're not going to do the provider tax. I left it at 2.5%. Now it's a mistake on the part of the leadership. And frankly, I know my friends are probably going to think I'm a little bit crazy here, but I actually passed a law that made it illegal to expand Medicaid. Why did I do that? Because I was convinced someday we would be here. And I would have rather found a way to get more people on Medicaid at the standard FMAP than having this 90-10 match and watching it disappear and taking away desperately needed health care. So, Mr. President, over the course of the evening, I may look for an opportunity to speak again, but I'm telling the president that you have been misinformed. You supporting the Senate mark will hurt people who are eligible and qualified for Medicaid. I love the work requirement. I love the other reforms in this bill. They are necessary, and I appreciate the leadership of the House for putting it in there. In fact, I like the work of the House so much that I wouldn't be having to do this speech if we simply started with the House mark. I've talked with my colleagues in North Carolina. I know that we can do that. And I believe that we can make sure that we do not break the promise of Donald J. Trump that he's made to the people who are on Medicaid today, Mr. President. But what we're doing, because we've got a view on an artificial deadline on July 4th, that means nothing but another date and time. We could take the time to get this right if we lay down the House mark of the Medicaid bill and fix it. And I know that my friend and colleague from New Hampshire, I jumped in front of her, so I'm only going to take another minute or two. But Mr. President, we owe it to the states to do the work to understand how these proposals affect them. How hard is that? I did it. How hard is it? How hard is it to sit down and ask the Medicaid office, ask the legislative staff, ask the Independent Hospital Association what the impact is? If there's no negative impact, what's wrong with daylight? What's wrong with actually understanding what this bill does? Mr. President, I know what it does because I spent a career implementing complex systems, and then I had the privilege of being Speaker of the House, and I implemented them in a government setting. And since I've been here, I've focused on bills and watched their implementation from the cradle until they're fully implemented. Mr. President, we owe it to the American people, and I owe it to the people of North Carolina to withhold my affirmative vote until it's demonstrated to me that we've done our homework. We're going to make sure that we fulfill the promise, and then I can feel good about a bill that I'm willing to vote for. But until that time, I will be withholding my vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Now, because he stood up for a truth, he decided not to run. He won't quite say it that way, but he understood that the waves of air was against him. The headwinds was too much because Donald Trump is going to let him pay for not allowing Donald Trump to betray the people, to break a promise to the people about Medicare, Medicaid not being cut. He admits it. He confessed the bill cuts Medicaid, and it will hurt his 600,000 plus North Carolinians if it is allowed to occur. And he decided he is going to lose his job because he won't do that to his constituents. Amazing. Now, I want to point out something, because Republicans do this all of the times, right? Because remember, I've always stated conservative policies don't help in the aggregate. They harm people. I want you to listen to something that the brother said. First of all, here's the deal. He came and he told the truth. The bill, this big, beautiful bill, will cut Medicaid profusely. Number two, this Medicaid cut would affect a whole lot of people in North Carolina, and mostly people in red states, because they're so much more dependent on Medicaid than blue states. So they will suffer more. Red state brothers and sisters, especially in rural areas, are you listening? It'll cut the hospitals. That's a statement of fact, even with the $25 billion that they addedly, purportedly, to mitigate some closures. It will not cover the vast majority of the 300 or so rural hospitals around the country that will close. That's another statement of fact. Now, he talks about when he was the speaker in North Carolina, that he understood that this day was coming. What he meant, and I wish he would have made it clear, he understood that conservatives at some point will take over the entire government. And because of their ideology, they will want to cut social programs. And because of that, in his state, he didn't put it this way, but this is exactly what happened. He did not sign up for Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. They subsequently did it. I believe it was when Democrats took over. And what the Medicaid expansion did, folks, was as follows. The first 3 years, they provided Medicaid expansion to the entire country, and all states who accepted it. The government paid 100%. After 3 years, the government paid 90%. What the Trump administration wants to do is no longer pay 90%. What Tillis is saying is he knew the day would come when the government says we don't want to continue our commitments to the poor, to the middle class, dependent on the Medicaid expansion. They've always wanted to eliminate it. So he did want his constituents getting Medicaid expansion, something that would eventually go away when Republicans took over. Well, here is the kicker. That wasn't a benevolent statement by Brother Tillis. What he's saying, he would have rathered all those North Carolinians die for an ideological reason. I would prefer my constituents to die up front than for them to die now. So he looks like he's doing something benevolent. He is, but he's doing something benevolent after saying, I didn't want to do something benevolent for my North Carolina residents because I would have rather them die as opposed to getting health care. You have to read between the lines and understand what they're saying. He also tries to compare what Donald Trump is doing by cutting Medicaid today with what the Obamacare came out with when they said, if you want your doctor, if you have your doctor, you can keep it. That statement was true for the vast majority of people. However, if you went on to Obamacare via a private sector plan that had these requirements that they selected your doctor, it's the private sector who imposed that limit on you, not the government. The government did tell them to write a plan that says you can only use these doctors. So it was comparing apples and oranges. And he, even as he's doing the right thing by denying that, by not supporting that bill, he is misleading you, trying to make it an argument similar to what Democrats did with Obamacare. It doesn't compute. And in as much as I praise him for doing this, I will not allow him to get away with lying to you about what the you can keep your doctor thing really meant. Look, this is some evil stuff going on right now in our country. And the people that are going to suffer are lower middle class and poor people. That's what they're doing to you. And everything in this bill is towards the wealthy. I want to give one important example because, when we speak, a lot of times we speak in generalities, right? I want to give you a specific how they use this bill, not only for their ideology, but also to use their ideology to further enrich rich people. And those of you that are listening, I need you to listen to this in detail. By the way, welcome Lisa Blair from, I think, Atlanta, Georgia, and we have Joe from Los Angeles, California. Welcome aboard as well. Carolyn Olson, Lisa Bentley, Laura, It's Never Happening, Suzette Jensen, Charlene Sparrow, and all of you, Marilu, John, Anders, Forland, Kevin Randolph, Grace Garfinkel, Melissa Cook, Sabrina. If I didn't mention you, maybe because it didn't come up on the screen. But thank you so kindly for being here. Here is what I want to talk to you about now. When we talk about this bill doing all that is possible to move your money, the money of the middle class and the money of the poor to the wealthy, but it does it in some very calculated and devious manners. I want to give you one example. When the bill came out at midnight Saturday, again, like I said, I was watching all this crap over the weekend so that you guys don't have to, okay? When all this crap was written, I got the original copy of the release at midnight that what's his name released, the senator from South Carolina released the official text, 940 pages of this bill. Now, I can't read 940 pages. I don't have the time to read 940 pages, so I depend on reports from reputable sources. But I needed some answers right away. So I took the 940 bill. I have a paid version of ChatGPT. So I ran that PDF through ChatGPT. And I asked ChatGPT to tell me what it says about vouchers, what it says about credits and so forth for voucher schools, because I had heard through the grapevine that they were doing some sort of magical thing with vouchers and schools. And here is a devious thing that they did. The one big beautiful bill includes a new federal tax credit that allows donors, parents or not, whether you're a parent or not, to make contributions to scholarship granting organizations known as SGOs that support private and religious school vouchers. The provision is structured as a dollar for dollar credit, capped at either $5 billion per year in the House version or $4 billion per year in the Senate version. And this kind of stuff is scattered all over the bill. And here's what it does, people. Let's say I bought a stock for $100. If I bought a stock for $100, and let's say over time that stock appreciated to $1,100, my capital gains on that stock is $1,000. If I have 1,000 of that stocks, my capital gains is $1 million. And that's what we're talking about here. So let me tell you what this statement does. Let's say I take that stock and I sell it. I would owe, let's say I have 1,000 shares of that stock. So I have $1 million gain. Let's say I sold that stock for that $1,100 each, which gives me $1.1 million. My tax on that should be $238,000, somewhere around there, the capital gains tax. Well, guess what, guys? If I take that $1 million and donate it to an SGO, a scholarship granting organization for a Christian school or a religious school that give vouchers, I simply take off, I give that to the school. I gave the school $1.1 million, right? I can now, instead of paying the tax on that $1.1 million of $238,000, I go to the United States government and said, I donated $1.1 million to that school. My tax credit, not a deduction, a tax credit. I get a tax credit of $1.1 million. So I give the school $1.1 million, and the government gives me back in my tax credit, because I'm rich now, it gives me back $1.1 million. And all I need to do is I can go buy back that stock at $1 million. It looks like I gave a donation to the schools, but guess what? The government gave me all the money back that I donated to the school. The school gets $1.1 million. And here's the kicker. That school could decide to also give my kid a scholarship to go to that school or any school. So I could donate to one of these schools, get all my money back, and then get a free education for my kid. That is what's called transferring money to the rich, and you don't even see it if you don't understand what they're doing. And it costs money to do that, because that is your tax dollars going right back into the hands of that rich person. But because they don't explain it to you, you don't see that. And this is just one $5 billion item in the bill that I found. Just one. Just one. There are hundreds, thousands of these in a 940-page bill. And this is how they are taking your Medicaid. They're taking your Medicaid away. They're taking your SNAP away. They're increasing the budget. They're blowing up the budget deficit to make rich people rip us off with things like this. They were also going to sell the land, sell public lands. So let's say there's public lands with a whole lot of oil on it, or a whole lot of uranium or rare earths. A rich person buys up that land. They buy it from the government. The government looks like for a one-time buy of that, right? The government looks like they made a little bit of money. But all the profits from that land, the oil, the mineral resources from that land, instead of you having to pay royalty to the government for extracting that resource, it all goes to the wealthy person who buys that land. So the government loses money there. And we lose money because it's public land where you're making resources. Well, apparently, one of the Republican senators balked at that so badly that it seems, according to the Washington Post, they removed that particular provision from the bill. But when we try to explain to our MAGA brothers and sisters how evil this bill is and what it does to you and why they're trying so hard to get it passed by July 4th, is they don't want all this examination on the bill. Those guys haven't read the bill. They don't want this bill to be examined to understand that you got conned. You got hoodwinked. Whoever passes this bill, they are voted against their constituents' interests. And when you see look, like I said, I'm not a Tillis fan. I'm not a Tillis fan. But when this guy, it is so bad that a guy that denied Medicaid expansion to his constituents, when it is so bad that a guy who was willing to kill his constituents in North Carolina, it is too bad for even him. It should tell you something. It should tell you something. Look, over the weekend, I did a whole lot of stuff looking over the bill, looking at these things. Let me tell you, to those who are listening to us in rural areas that have a proclivity to your ideology, your Republican ideology and your conservative ideology, I am not trying to tell you don't be who the hell you are. I am not trying to tell you that at all. What I'm trying to tell you, however, is by supporting these folks who are intent on voting for this bill, you're killing some of your family. You're killing some of your friends. You're killing some of them because the effect of this bill is just that. It's just that. All right, let's go to John, line number 1. John, come on in, my brother. Line numero uno.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Hello? Oh, okay. Yeah, some of the senators, like Joni Ernst, apparently thinks that it's okay to euthanize people this way. And, she doesn't mind that. I hope that that costs her her seat. But I'm not sure that it will, because I think, as you pointed out, there's such subterfuge and, machinations going on here that, people really don't know what's going on at all. They live in a foxified world. That's where they get their information. And, this is the result. And it's not only going to affect lower middle class people, it will affect other people also. So everybody, is going to have to pay the price for giving tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires that don't need it.
Oh, let me stop, John. I want to stop you there. But I want to stop you there for a second, John, because I want people to understand something that you just said. It's not going to only affect those who lose their Medicaid. It's going to affect everybody for this reason. And I want to give the specific reason why it'll affect everybody. Hospitals have certain rules that if somebody is harmed or injured, they have to at least stabilize them. And right now, if these hospitals get somebody, even if they're coming in from some rural area into the city to get treatment, that treatment is going to have to be given to stabilize them. Normally, Medicaid would get billed for it, or some other part of the bill would get paid for by the federal government. All of that is gone. So therefore, insurance rates are going to go up because the hospitals are going to have to charge the insurance companies that are paying more. So ultimately, all of us, not just the recipients of Medicaid, but all of us are going to pay more. And in effect, that is the indirect method in which our money goes into the pockets of the wealthy folks. Continue, my brother.
Yeah, it's just going to transfer that cost because, it's really tacky if somebody comes to an emergency room and they lock the door and say, "Oh, sorry, you don't have Medicaid, you don't have insurance. We're just going to let you die." I mean, this has been going on for so long. That is why other countries have some kind of public system. And it even gets more twisted because some of the pharmaceutical companies and medical equipment companies, like for instance here in Minnesota, Medtronic is where it's headquartered, and it was developed about 10 blocks away from here in a garage, interestingly enough. But they moved their headquarters to Ireland because they pay either little tax or no tax, corporate tax, but yet they, Medicare, Medicaid, is the biggest probably part of their profits because they put in all kinds of devices like heart pacemakers, etc. And it's just it's a terrible situation. But this is what has happened since Citizens United, and just the fact that there's so many lobbyists writing up these bills and making them so difficult that you almost have to be a lawyer to understand, and our representatives are not making it clear as to what is at stake, or at least,
it's not only them, my brother. It's not only them, because again, I gave you a perfect example about how the fancy way or the evil way in which another way that they can take our tax dollars using the voucher system and the school system and a donation from a rich person. We have a mainstream media that has the resources to tell people what's in that bill. And instead, they're only talking about, Medicaid is getting cut, and they talk the top line. So I have Cheryl Elkins, who says in the chat, it's never happening in the chat, who says they have a Republican friend who said they're tired of giving away things for free. And that's a narrative that's allowed to be heard. But the narrative isn't about giving away things for free. The thing is about, one, being humane, and two, making the system work. But if you frame it as giving away something for free, nobody gets anything for free in this country. Even if you're on food stamps, you're actually partaking within the economy. So, I mean, it's a lie. But, John, I got to go to Jimmy. So give me a quick wrap up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. All of the things that these people own have been created by all of us.
Exactly.
Contribution from the state. I mean, private foundations and the military, etc. And then they corner the market on that, and they own it. But it was all made by all of us.
Thank you.
You did.
Thank you, John. Got to go. Let's go to Brother Jimmy.
Egberto, that senator gave a powerful speech. I hope the Senate and the House make some reforms on that bill before they pass it out. Thank you for putting it on the air. Over the weekend, I read about Ukraine, how McDonald's is thriving in Ukraine. They have over 100 stores in Ukraine. They're going to build 10 more this year. People love McDonald's over there, and they'll line up at night when a new store is opening up because they love the taste of the food. I was amazed that that's going on in the middle of a war. And McDonald's had shut down all their stores in Russia.
Yeah.
And about the new candidate for mayor in New York City, Ma'am Dammy, I believe it is.
Yeah, Ma'am Dammy.
Free health care, free child care, free bus rides, and so forth. And so he wants to bring down the cost of living, so he's doing some good things there.
Yes, he is. And
this is also Gay Pride weekend. There was a Gay Pride parade here in Houston, and I remember some years ago I walked in the Gay Pride parade. There was a group of bigots on the side of the road saying, "God hates fags. God hates fags." I looked at them and I said, "There is no God." They looked stunned.
Well, look, if there's a God, God loves everybody. So that's what I say all of the time. But thank you, Jimmy. Anything else you need to add real quickly?
Yeah, I read where there's 400,000 factory jobs open in the U.S. right now. People who are looking for a job, they might want to go to work in a factory. And also this new mayor candidate. He said if Netanyahu comes to New York City, he's going to have him arrested.
That would be a good thing. I thought that was funny, but it's a good thing. But his Secret Service won't allow them to arrest him. But that's okay. I like the sentiment. Thank you very much, Jimmy. Have a wonderful rest of your day, my brother.
You too, Egberto. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right, let's go to Brother Bruce. Come on in, Bruce.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, first condolences to the young man who lost his life. When I first moved to California in '87, a couple years later, I'm sitting in a bar, and a young man approached me, a young Hispanic man, and said, "Can I get some advice from you?" I said, "I guess." He goes, "I just started a new job, and there's somebody there I recognize from an opposite gang. If I get him, I'll lose my job. If I don't get him, everybody be wondering, how come you didn't take the opportunity? What should I do?" I said, "Brother, you're asking somebody from a complete different world, but I got a couple things I want you to think about." I said, I went to work in a machine shop, and a shop helper came up to pull the shavings out of my machine, and I recognized him from high school. He's somebody my brother used to get in a fight with almost every day. All right. And now he's got a bald spot and a pot belly. And I asked him, I said, "Aren't you the guy that used to fight my brother?" "Oh, yeah. I married that girl." I said, "Well, my brother told me he used to hate fighting you, and he'd ask the girl, 'Aren't you just using me to get you jealous when you asked me to walk to class?' And she denied it. He goes, 'I have to go by her word.'" And the guy started laughing. He goes, "If you see your brother, tell him hello. I'll give him a phone number." "Yeah, okay." I said, "Young man, you're not going to be 20 years old the rest of your life. There are people I got in fight with in high school that are now fishing buddies. You're denying yourself all of that future if you do something stupid based on emotion instead of using your brain." I said, "You'll wind up in prison, and your so-called friends won't know who you are." I said, "I'm not really the one to give you advice. You're talking to me from a different world. All right. But I want you to think you're not going to be 20 the rest of your life." All right. And I didn't know what to tell him. But see, when I went in high school, you got an East Texas ass whipping, or you gave an East Texas ass whipping, and 5-10 years later, you run into that person and you laugh about it. You go fishing with them. I said, "You guys, you young people today think it has to be settled with the gun." I said, it's a different world for me. I just don't understand your world. I said, "Use your brain, not your emotion, and make the correct decision." I didn't know what to tell Egberto. But anyway, I'm going to bring it up since we're washing guns, and guns were talked about earlier.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Bruce. Always have something insightful to say. Have a wonderful rest of your day, sir. All right, let's go to Augie. Come on in, Augie.
Good morning. You were talking about how those companies want to take our minerals and all that. Mm-hmm. Well, in Appalachia, they blew up mountains for coal mines and stuff like that.
Yep.
And there's a business here in River Oaks that wanted to buy up all the redwood trees on the West Coast so we could chop them up and sell them to Japan. They want to get rid of our forest that everybody likes. And that's what the lumber companies want nowadays. And they got it in the bill, where they can go through any virgin forest and they're going to cut a road through it and cut down all those trees for all these parks that everybody likes. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Some of those trees are over 1,000 years old, Augie.
Yeah, the sequoias and the redwoods. And the billionaire here quit because there's a protest in front of his house down the street, and he got scared, so he backed off. But now there's nothing to stop him now if this bill goes through. And like I said, the media, as a corporate media, when Trump bombed Iran, I was looking at TV that night, and at 8 o'clock, NBC and ABC cut into the prime time and started talking about the attack on the bombing on Iran. Mm-hmm. And I kept going back and forth between ABC and NBC. They were saying the same words on both channels, like somebody had told them what to say. And they were describing the attack in positive terms, but they were using the same words. But CBS was the only one network that didn't cut into it until Trump made his speech. And that tells you something about the media. It's bought by the corporations, too. So the information you get nowadays, you're not getting the whole truth. And Trump is trying to shut down PBS and NPR and even KPFT. It's time for everybody to wake up and see what's going on.
Thank you, my brother. Well, let me tell you something, Augie. That's the reason when I started this my media platforms, I made sure it had absolutely nothing to do with the government. When I say the government, I'm not anti-government at all, but I mean so that whenever a Republican administration come in, they would want, they would attempt to do what they always attempt to do, and that is to shut down truth and promote propaganda, which is exactly what is happening now. Shut down truth and promote propaganda. So that's what we do. And by the way, I just want to give you a kudos. And I always have to do this, but I want the audience to know, folks like you are big, big supporters of these types of platforms, like Politics Done Right on KPFT and many other programs on KPFT. Guys like you are ones who make America smarter. So thank you very much, Augie.
Yeah, thanks for you and Jack and Howard.
All right. Have a good one, brother. Let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah, this question goes out for Howard. Howard, how much money did the United States government give to the Mexican government after the War of 1846? So stop saying this is on stolen land. We had the Louisiana Purchase from France. We bought that land from France. Here's another fact that you don't quite comprehend. Anyone on that opposes you. My wife is from Beijing, China. She never tasted seafood until she came to Houston, Texas. You realize that? And now China has claimed the South China Sea, almost to the Philippines. Like 15 million square miles of land is under control of China. You want to talk about control? What is the predominant language in Central America, South America? Is it English or is it Spanish? The Spanish controlled Florida to California. You going to call me a liar on this or something? Do you want to reiterate?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but let me just say one thing specifically. I can go if I steal your car, and I sell your car to Howard purchased it, so he didn't steal it. But guess what? I stole it. Look, all the land, all what I'm trying to say. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If somebody, brother, if somebody steals your watch and pawns it, the pawn shop legally bought your watch. Can you go to that pawn shop? Do you have to go to that pawn shop and buy it back, or is the cops going to give you that watch back because it's stolen? And right,
when you, yeah,
right. So you agree with me.
No,
so
France
didn't have any right to sell. Stop for a second and listen. France didn't have any right to sell stolen land because, again, they sold something that wasn't theirs in the first place. That's all I got to say. But again, you have to understand. You have no idea, want to understand the concepts. But have a great one, Brian. Let me finish up the program here. Thank you. All right. Anyway, folks. I'm not sure what that call was about, but anyhow, look, the Medicaid, the big ugly bill, also known as the one big beautiful bill, is not law yet. It still has 2 iterations to go, meaning it has to pass actually, it may have 3 iterations depending on what happens. It has to go to the Senate to be passed. Then it has to go to some sort of a reconciliation board to put the Senate and the House version together. And then the House has to pass it. And if the House doesn't pass the Senate bill as is, it then has to go back to the Senate. While time is short because they're rushing things, we have time to make a difference. You have time to make a difference. You have time for rural folks, for MAGA folks, for Republicans who will never listen to politics done right. But it's your mother, your father, your brother, your cousin, your whatever, that you have some sort of influence on in a civil manner, in a respectful manner. Try to explain the realities to them so that we don't have to live through the pains of what this would mean after it occurs. Because even if they do this and we have to come back in 2026, win and start changing it back in 2027, it's very easy to bring down something. It's very easy to destroy something. It is very hard to build it back up. And in the process of building back up, you may actually lose your mother, your father, your brother, your daughter, and all of those that would have suffered the consequences of the evil emanating from this bill. So it is high time for us to get responsible. Welcome aboard, Eric Hayes, Billy Irwin. It is high time for us to get in the game. We must get in the game. It is and I hate to put it in these terms, for the survival of many of us, not the survival of most of us, but the survival of many of us. Because what's going on now is the sheer instantiation of evil. Studio, come on in, my brothers and sisters.
Egberto. One thing I've got is, when you fire that gun, there's consequences that come after it. All these, free open carry guns come with a great deal of just bad stuff. So people just think before you take a life. That's all I got.
Mayanna, you have anything?
Yeah, I'm just grateful for this episode. It was really eye-opening, and it helped with a lot of things that I didn't know about, even though I disagree with the bill. So thank you so much.
Thank you so kindly, Mayanna. Look, folks, I got to get out of here. Jackie's going to kick me out. So look, the rest of the program, a lot of stuff that I wasn't able to get to today is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can email me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.